So your child has an IEP. He or she's been hospitalized for educational, psychological, or behavioral reasons. You come back to the IEP team meeting, the Individualized Education Program team meeting, and really the ultimate question, after you've done all the other steps that we've explained, is this new category of disability that your child may be eligible under adversely impacting education? And Jen, let's remind everybody again, I don't think we can remind them enough, that education is not just academics. It is not just your academic achievement or your grades. It is how you are functionally performing.
Right. And so, presuming your child already has an IEP, that eligibility category may be an emotional disturbance, and therefore you might have already answered the question about whether an emotional issue is adversely impacting your child. So the eligibility piece, that's a key question, but for purposes of just as a team designing a program, we now need to consider, is this emotional piece something that's impacting the child educationally? And as you said, that can mean just going to school. You know, a child might have all of the best scores on the standardized statewide testing, but if they go to school 3 days in a school year because they're so impacted by an emotional disability, that adversely impacts their education.
Right.
If they're not able to form relationships with their peers, that adversely impacts their education. There are all sorts of, I had a client once who had an emotional disability who, unfortunately, during times when she would be cycling because of her disability, she would not take care of herself. She wouldn't groom herself. She would, and hygiene became a huge problem during those periods of time. That adversely impacted her, and she needed support in that regard, and sometimes instruction in that regard.
Right.
And so it's something that you need to look at and say, how is this impacting the student in their educational environment? How do we revise that IEP to address that?
Right.
Because ultimately, we now have new information, and we want to make sure that whatever information came out of the psychiatric hospitalization is taken into account through the IEP.
And so that means that you are writing and developing new IEP goals that will be individually addressed at school.
Yeah.
And that's
or revising the old ones.
Right. And something you certainly don't want to overlook.